What a way to start 2021. Stamford Bridge, the perfect venue for some New Year footballing fireworks. It's a tongue twister, isn't it? Frank Lampard's Blues host Pep Guardiola's Manchester City in the Premier League. We are very excited. You do not want to miss this one. Hello and welcome to the New Year Matchday Live. Same team, of course it is. Jason Cundy, Pat Nevin, Claire Rafferty and Zach Jellab joining me today. Before we focus on today's game, some sad news that we wanted to reflect on to start with. On New Year's Eve, we sadly lost a footballing great, a former Chelsea manager and player, Tommy Docherty. Pat, it's obviously very, very sad news that came to us on New Year's Eve, but he's one of those figures that his legacy will last on because of his impact in British football in general, isn't he?
Well, he's famous for what he did at Manchester United, but also what he did at Chelsea. He was Scotland manager as well. I got to know Tommy when I was at Chelsea. We did a show together called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. We became friends. And about 2 weeks later, he phoned me up and he said my brother Tommy had got in touch with him. And they became best friends with my brother Tommy. And then he met my dad. And he became best friends with my dad. And then he met my other brother Michael. Tommy Docherty is a close personal friend of every member of my family, individually and separately, because everybody who met him loved him and spent a massive amount of time with their family. I used to go phone at my dad and just work him out for a pint. He was a legend in football, but a perfectly normal guy as well, who you always wanted to be in the company with. He was the most phenomenal, funny guy with stories forever, but never selfish with it. And most of the time taking the mick out of himself as well. He was one of the most extraordinary human beings I've ever met, but also one of the funniest and also one of the most talented. And by the way, if you'd have ever seen him as a pundit, he's just about giving up before starting. He was amazing at that too. Yeah. Well missed that, man.
Pat, that was lovely, mate. Really, really touching. Thank you very much for that. Our thoughts and love, of course, with the Tommy Docherty family. Obviously, sadly passed away on New Year's Eve. Jay, Happy New Year, mate. I want to come on to today's game. Now, obviously, it's a very important game for both teams on 26 points. Mm-hmm. How do you think both teams will approach it?
Both teams will look to go and win the game. City have had a tricky start. And it feels a little bit like roles are kind of reversed. They had a tricky start, we had a decent start, and now it feels like they're going through the gears quite nicely, and we're having that little bit of a stutter. They're still very much a side that can hurt you, even with the problems they've got. There is apparently even more news at the last hour that's broke. There's other COVID cases. I don't know how true that is, so I won't name names, but they've had problems behind the scenes with COVID. And this has been a tricky time for them dealing with this, because we know how devastating it can be to a squad having to isolate. We've seen it many times before, and let's fingers crossed, God willing, that it won't happen too many more times between now and the end of the season. But it can really upset your plans going into that game. Having said that, we hopefully have one or two players coming back ourselves that can affect this game. So the way the game is going to go, two good sides, I think it's going to be very tight. I don't think there's going to be much between these two at all.
We're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth in a second, of course. But firstly, we need to get to Play Predictor, of course. As it's the start of a new month, it's a fresh chance for you to win a £500 Megastore voucher by topping the leaderboard for January. Now, last month's winner was Jack from the UK. A very, very good 271 points. So make sure you get your predictions in before 3:30, so not too much longer. Make sure you do that. This is what we have gone for today. I've gone for a 1-0 Chelsea win. Jason has gone for a 1-1 draw. Pat and Claire both gone for 2-2 draws. Zach has gone for a 3-1 win. Claire, 2-2 for you today. I suppose, much like Jason said, Manchester City have probably not reached the standards they've set in the past, but they are starting to click, aren't they? Starting to get back to what we see their ruthless best.
You know what? I feel like they had their press slow down a little bit, didn't they? I think that they had a bit of a slow start, what Jason touched on. I do think this is going to be a tight game. Very good defensively. I think some of the players are hitting a bit of form. We've seen Sterling more assists and more goals, being a little bit more direct. I really love Cancelo. Am I saying his name right? Because I've heard a few commentators say it differently. I don't want to get this right. But for me, he's fantastic. He plays slightly inverted, and I like that. That will cause our right back a few problems. I don't know if James is obviously injured, isn't he? So that potentially would be Aspilicueta. But yeah, I think City has started a little bit slowly, but they are hitting a bit of form. I think it's a big game for us. After the Villa game, we had injected a bit more energy, hadn't we? A bit more enthusiasm. We had the kind of a little bit more opportunities. We were creating them goal scoring opportunities, but we just weren't really capitalising on them. So I think we need to take the confidence from that game, inject it into this game.
Zach, I always love your positivity, mate. So I'm saving yours for hot topic 1, which is hopes for 2021 today. You've gone for a 3-1 win to start the new year. So talk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of had this dip recently, and Chelsea is a squad with a lot of very, very good players who maybe recently haven't been playing to the level that we expect of them and know them to play to. We've been unfortunate with a few injuries, and I really think it's only a matter of time before we come good. I mean, we had positive signs against a Villa side who actually are pretty good. And we may be unfortunate to have not taken all 3 points from that game. And I just think if our players like Timo Werner and Kai Havertz and that start firing, I think we're going to be golden. And I can only see that happening today from 2021.
Pat, what are your hopes for 2021? I suppose when you look at where we are, and Jason has coined the term, and I keep stealing it, Jay, because I think it's bang on, mate. The football is a little bit drunk, and it still does feel a little bit like that, doesn't it? It's so unpredictable the way it's going. One win, you're second in the table. If you lose a game and results go against you, you find yourself sort of mid-table almost. It seems it's also very strange still. So what do you predict for the year ahead?
Only an idiot would predict anything. So I'm going to predict. I'll not go there.
Hello.
No, it's kind of wild because, as you say, it is all over the place. Everyone's had a good period and everyone's had a dip. I mean, the amount of people who said to me, "Oh, Liverpool are going to run away with it now," 2 weeks ago, and then I watched them and they couldn't beat West Brom, and West Brom were playing 6-4-0 against them. So it's completely bizarre. So what you want is quite simply all your best players playing at their best. And when that happens, you look around. Now, if all Chelsea's best players play at their best, we're okay. We're absolutely fine. And we are well capable of being up in the top 4 and beyond. Really up high in the top 4, not just sneaking in there. We are capable of doing that. But it's all about getting that consistency. If we do it, I'm not worried at all. So what do I want? What do I suspect for this year? This year, I suspect we will start getting those players to do it more regularly. And when that happens, I have no worries at all.
Jace, the games are coming thick and fast, and big games as well. You talk about the year ahead. Obviously, Manchester City today. We've got Spurs in the next 6 weeks, Leicester and Wolves as well. Atletico Madrid in the next round of the Champions League. I suppose if you start the year well, then it puts you on a very good standing for the rest of the year, doesn't it?
You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I mean, we always talk about starting the year off on a good foot, and we've ended this year pretty average. If we're the last year, I should say last year, pretty averagely. It's been a good 2020 for us. Now, there's so much more hope going into this year. This result of this game is not going to define how good our seasonal year is going to be. But I tell you what, it can really have a big help. If we get a victory today, it can half help us because of what's happened, over the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. But there's a lot of games coming up. And the one thing this season has shown us is that your season can dip very quickly and it can be risen very quickly. It wasn't that long ago, people were talking about Arsenal being in crisis. Now, all of a sudden, they're back. They've had 3 wins. They had a good win against us and they've beaten Brighton and they've beaten West Brom. Well, 2 sides they should beat and 1 they shouldn't. And all of a sudden, their season's back on. We're 3 points ahead of them. Are we looking over a shoulder? Maybe. We get 3 points today. All of a sudden, our season is back on track. It's so tight. There's so many little games that can make such a big difference. And today is huge for so many reasons. But look, there's 7 games this month in various different competitions. It's unbelievable. Today's result won't define our season, but you know what? If we lose, it will look dreadful. If we win, everyone's up in arms. So the fingers crossed.
Claire, like Jay pointed out there, we've got a lot of games coming up over the next couple of weeks, and 1 or 2 games can really sort of change the way that things are perceived and looked at. I suppose we are very aware of the pandemic still, playing a huge part in football. Obviously, there was a game called off today. Manchester City had their game called off on Monday. We've got Morecambe next weekend scheduled in the FA Cup, and you are looking at every game now, I suppose, as a case of we're lucky to be playing these games because of the situation we're in. We have to take that, we can't take that for granted that we're lucky to be getting games of football at all. So I suppose now the focus is maybe just on the next game as it comes and playing it like that. Maybe what do you think?
Well, I think the cliche is, isn't it? You always have to focus on the next game. Don't look too far ahead. But as you touched on what Jason said, it's about what it looks like. If we do not win this game, it will look bad. But it's so inconsistent and up and down the league that will it make that much of a difference? For us, it's about the opportunity that lost because everyone else around us is equally being as inconsistent as opposed to some. Man United are on a bit of a, and I hate to say it, but they've hit a bit of form. But I think, it is about every single game. We are lucky to be playing. Obviously, we don't know the situations, even leading up to this game. Where is it on? Is it off? That has to kind of affect your mentality as a player a little bit as well. I know Lampard said he's going into training as though it is on and as though every single game is on. But each game we have to take it as a positive and a bonus almost, and almost isolate that game and hopefully let's get our best players out on the pitch, and that's all we need to do, isn't it? That's all we're aiming to do.
Well, I mean, leading on to that actually nicely, because some of our best players are on the pitch today. Frank Lampard has selected the 11 for this afternoon. Eduard Mendy starts in goal for Chelsea. Captain Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell. Mateo Kovacic, N'Golo Kanté, Mason Mount, Hakim Ziyech returns from injury, Timo Werner and Christian Pulisic. Straight away, your reaction to that, Zach, I suppose the one that we're all looking at, the one we're all very happy about, and the reason you're rubbing your hands together is because Hakim Ziyech is starting for Chelsea.
Oh, what a player, man. What a player. I think I didn't quite realise how important he was to the squad already until he got injured. He's a guy that very few in the Premier League who can really make something out of nothing and kind of allows us to get in behind. I mean, with the selection, it kind of screams that we're going to be trying to do that quite often, hoping that Timo Werner, who looks like he's playing as a solo striker, is going to be getting in behind the City's defence. And Hakim Ziyech is the perfect player to kind of let that happen. Not only can he put great balls into the box for headers, but also if, say, a player was to miss that header, they're perfect for, say, a Ben Chilwell or Christian Pulisic who's at the back post to just tap in. We saw it several times in such a short period of play that he's played for Chelsea, and how lethal that left foot of his is. And you know what? I'm so excited to see him play. It's been a little while as well, so we've got to remember that he may not be on fire straight away. I'm sure it'll take him a few minutes to get used to it, but that is super, super exciting.
Little mention for the Manchester City lineup as well. Stefan starts in goal, obviously no Ederson. Joao Cancelo, Claire pointed out a minute ago. Ruben Diaz, John Stones, Zinchenko, Rodrigo, Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, Bernardo Silva and Raheem Sterling as well. Squad. On the bench, Sergio Aguero, Riyad Mahrez, Benjamin Mendy, Fernandinho, and a couple of other names on there. But again, Pat, like we keep mentioning, we keep coming back to it. Injuries and illness as well, obviously with COVID now as well, is causing such havoc across the Premier League and in terms of sort of decimating teams as such. When you have got an opportunity to start Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner and Christian Pulisic as a front three, you have to say that as a massive positive.
As a massive positive, I think you've got the two best squads in terms of depth playing against each other in this game. What Manchester City can do is very impressive. But we are looking at Hakim Ziyech, and I think he's playing against a player he can really do some damage against. Zinchenko has got various things that he's very good at, but he has got limitations as well, particularly in his defensive areas. And this is also a big game for Azpilicueta. I think Reece James has had an amazing understanding with Hakim when he's been playing together. It's up for Aspi now to do the same. Just keep on getting by, keep on getting outside there, keep on giving a question to Zinchenko. So, yeah, we can bring in Zinchenko, all the things, exactly what Zach said there about the back post, about people arriving, because the ball's going to be quality. It's going to arrive from his left foot. So I think, I'm really excited about this team that the Gaffer's put out. And as I said earlier on to you all, I'm hoping today is the day either Havertz or Werner starts getting in the box and scoring a few goals. I'm feeling more good about Timo by the minute.
Love that. Well, leads us nicely onto that, actually, because we'll continue that chat, Jay, because Timo Werner obviously gets the opportunity to play through the middle. I mean, look, I know we're all very aware and we're very sort of grateful for how well Olivier Giroud and Tammy Abraham have done to keep Timo at that starting berth as a kind of number 9. But today is the opportunity for him to do that. And if that is the position that he wants to play, now's his opportunity to go and bag someone. I think we're all just waiting that haul, aren't we? Because he's certainly going to, at some point, just decimate a team and score 3 or 4. It seems like that.
Do you know what? I think Frank has been secretly waiting for this front three to be fit. This is the first time Ziyech and Pulisic are going to start a game together. And it's the first time since Southampton, I believe, that we're going to see Timo down the middle. And I think maybe he's been waiting for this and the opportunity hasn't presented itself. That's why maybe we've seen Timo out the left-hand side, because Pulisic hasn't been fit. When Pulisic's fit, we've seen Timo out on the right-hand side and so on and so forth. Then Ziyech is missing. Today brings it all together, hopefully. It's the beginning, I think, of a front three that we're going to see an awful lot of. It's the movement we saw against Brighton pre-season. That movement where Timo drops and goes long. He's a different type of striker. He's different to Tammy. He's different to Giroud. He is going to drop to come into that number 10 position, get on the half turn, and then drive at the defence. He's also going to look to spin beyond the fullbacks when they're push high, because we know that they like to do that. So what we're looking at now is a very, very different looking Chelsea side. And I think the way we're going to play today has to be different as well. So I'm incredibly excited about this. The midfield, I like the look of the midfield. The back five picks itself. So I think we might be starting to look to Frank's strongest 11. Clearly Havertz at some stage might have to have a place in that team as well. But right now, this is possibly the front three he's always been looking for.
Claire, like Jay pointed out there, Kai Havertz and I suppose Callum Hudson-Odoi as well, the two players that perhaps that many people thought might have started today. I mean, Callum especially has been frightening form the last couple of games when he's come and made a real impact. But like Jason said, when Frank's getting to a position where he's got a lot of players fit and a lot of other teams in the league don't have that sort of luxury, when you've got the opportunity to bring on Kai Havertz or Callum Hudson-Odoi to change your game at any point, he must be delighted to be able to have, well, not only Ziyech but also Havertz and the like back and fit.
Yeah, obviously, Ziyech, he's a high output playmaker, isn't he? He's for me, his individualism actually creates things for other players. He brings other players into the game. It's going to be exciting to see him play alongside what Jason was saying, Pulisic and Werner. I think Werner's obviously had a dip in form. Kai Havertz has been off form as well. But I think Callum Hudson-Odoi will be the most frustrated out of Kai and himself, just because he's been playing the better out of the two. We've seen a lot in the news about Kai been struggling with the COVID situation as well, so let's not take that for granted. I hope he's actually doing okay off the back of that, because it looks like he's physically that's been a bit of a struggle for him. But just touching back on Werner, for me, I'm excited now, especially with Ziyech in the team. His natural attributes actually put him in positions to score goals. His speed, he gets away from defenders, so he's going to create chances for himself. It's just about almost taking advantage of his low confidence and trying to switch that around and making sure he, obviously he's missed a couple, hasn't he? But let's hope he capitalises on some opportunities today.
Zach as well. You look at the Manchester City back line that it picked. Obviously, with Zinchenko is an attacking fullback, as is Cancelo. So, like Jason said, there might be an opportunity for Timo to perhaps drift wide and try and get in behind fullbacks. And also, John Stones and Ruben Diaz. I'm not sure. Pat will probably be the best position to tell me how often they've played alongside each other. I wouldn't imagine it's a huge amount, because he favours Laporte, and even Fernandinho at times has played there. So perhaps there is that something to get at him. And again, Zach, I know we're all waiting for Timo Werner to sort of come back with a haul, and it does feel like it's going to be one of those games at some point soon where he's had chances where he's probably a little bit disappointed with himself, but he's getting in those positions, and there will be a game where he will come back with 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah, I mean, the City squad is still quite strong. I think we have to admit that. As Pat said, these are probably the two teams with the best depth. So the fact they're missing 5 or 6 players and they're still putting a lineup like this speaks volumes. But yes, the defence is there to get got at. Ruben Diaz and John Stones, I think, are the kind of at the moment the two centre backs that are playing for City at that back. It seems to be those two quite recently, and John Stones has come into a bit of form, but Timo Werner's going to love that. Werner's going to love being able to run against them. As you said, the last game Timo played up front was Southampton, and he actually played pretty well up top. He got a goal. He did that the bit where he let the ball come under his legs and used his pace to get in behind him. And I think he's going to be playing like that today, and we'll look extremely forward to it. I mean, I might feel quite bad for Cancelo and for Zinchenko, because the wingers are going to be on them all the time. And yes, they are attacking fullbacks, but with the wingers that we've got playing today, they might not actually be able to push up that far up the pitch without leaving their defence exposed. It's extremely exciting, because it's a front three that theoretically could be one of the best in the league. And over the next couple of years, we may see a lot more of them together.
Absolutely right, mate. James Maddison has put Leicester 1-0 up away at Newcastle, by the way. That is all from us for now. We'll be back shortly, of course. We will leave you with our tribute to Chelsea legend Tommy Docherty, who sadly passed away on New Year's Eve, aged 92.
Tommy Docherty revolutionised Chelsea. He is one of a few people who can claim to have truly changed the club. Signed as a player-coach from Arsenal in 1961, whilst Ted Drake was still manager, he played just 4 games before being named as first caretaker manager and then in early 1962, manager. Jimmy Greaves had gone the previous summer and nothing could save Chelsea from relegation, but he dragged the club into the 1960s with an emphasis on youth, energy and style.
Tommy had come in and got rid of all the, what he called the senior ones that he didn't think were good enough, and he started putting all the youngsters in. So we were all average age about 20, the first team, so it stood to reason we weren't going to survive too much. We went down that first year, but we came back in the second year. And the more experience we were playing, the better it was.
He jettisoned many of the older players and built a team with Bonetti, Shalato, Venables, Murray, Tambling and Bridges, and signed 2 more youngsters in McCready and Moore. He called his team Docherty's Diamonds. Promotion was gained at the first attempt. Then unusually high finishes for the club of 5th, 3rd and 5th again were achieved. The League Cup was won in 1965, and then the first successful European journey to the semi-finals of the Intercities Fairs Cup, the first incarnation of the now Europa League, was achieved in 1966. More youngsters were brought through, John Hollins, Peter Osgood and John Boyle, and more were bought, like George Graham. He changed the kit to make it more stylish and created the blue shirt, blue shorts and white socks look, which has become Chelsea's iconic image ever since. He also demanded the all-green kit for the goalkeepers.
I'll never forget the influence he had on me from the talking point of view, because I was still a bit of a quiet keeper in the early days. And Tommy came on and he was telling everyone what to do. Your ball caddy, yours, do this, do. And suddenly I realised the importance of someone talking to you and giving you encouragement. And from then on, I started learning as a keeper, you've got to talk. And then I became much more vocal on the field.
He was more of a motivator than a coach and benefited from the scientific approach of Dave Sexton assisting him. A famously short fuse and some mixed messages could often cause confusion, though.
He was a character. You know, one minute you would laugh and joke, the next minute he'd lose his temper. And then he would say, you've got to be in bed by 10. And if he was enjoying himself, you go to bed, he'd say, where are you going? And he'd say, going to bed. You said we've got to go. No, not yet, you know, and he's going to keep you up another day, do the reverse. So he was very inconsistent, but he was funny and he was a character.
And so it was that in 1965, he sent 8 players home from Blackpool for breaking curfew and tipped off the media. He broke up his team and sold some of his finest servants, Venables, Bridges, Murray, Graham, and started again. After successive FA Cup semi-final defeats, he then took Chelsea to only the 2nd final in our history in 1967. After some off-the-field problems in Bermuda the following season, he received a month's suspension from the Football Association and was subsequently released by the club. He will be remembered as a maverick and a man who was a champion of youth, a pioneer who kick-started what would be a golden period for the club, culminating in the successes under Dave Sexton of the early 1970s. He will be sorely missed by everybody associated with Chelsea Football Club.
Chelsea return to Stamford Bridge for a competitive fixture for the first time since March as Manchester City visit West London just days after demolishing Burnley. Now, the Blues' victory at Aston Villa on Sunday means their top 4 fate very much in their own hands, but this will be one of the toughest tests of this season so far, particularly without the help of a passionate home support. 2 changes to the Chelsea lineup from Sunday. It's 2 of the subs who impressed off the bench at Villa Park who come in. Ross Barkley replaces Mateo Kovacic. The other adjustment sees Christian Pulisic come in for Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who drops to the bench where he's joined by Jorginho, who's back from suspension. 6 changes for City from their win against Burnley on Monday. Sergio Aguero, so often the scourge of Chelsea, is injured, but Gabriel Jesus only makes the bench. We're expecting Raheem Sterling to play through the middle. Sterling recalled to the starting lineup with Aymeric Laporte and former Blue Kevin De Bruyne. Players now wearing their names on the back of their shirts, but they are still going to show their support for the Black Lives Matter campaign before kick-off here. Here's Mendy. Didn't get any change out of Azpilicueta first time, had to go back to Gundogan. Heard his yelp of pain there.
I think there's contact, but I think Azpilicueta's taken the ball, and there might be a block challenge, but there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great challenge.
Well, it's a free kick in a dangerous position. We saw Chelsea vulnerable to these kind of situations earlier in this season.
Yeah, interesting to see Mahrez has gone all the way over there. I presume he's going to take it.
Indeed he did. It was a good ball as well, and Fernandinho's header needed tipping over by Kerr.
It's poor marking. He's got lots of space here, Fernandinho. It's a good ball, isn't it, off the training ground. Yeah, that's poor. You've got to stay with your markers. Free header. He tries to get close, but Kerr makes a really good save.
Gundogan.
Good play back in numbers. Win the ball back. Maybe the game's starting to open up now.
He's got Pulisic in the middle. Oh, and Pulisic got a touch to it. Finally, Ederson gets a feel of the ball. Mount, Giroud. Here's Mason Mount. And then Barkley. And cleared away. Confusion at the back for City there, and Chelsea almost profited.
Yeah, we had a little bit of luck in it as well, which sometimes you need, but great play. Was a great run by Barkley initially here. Stays onside. City slow in reacting, gives him a chance to get his ball in, and so unlucky initially Pulisic, but then Mason Mount, that's possibly a first-time shot, but he goes for the 1-2, doesn't quite make good contact.
Good corner too from Willian, and then slashed wide by Azpilicueta after Andreas Christensen came close to finally scoring his first Chelsea goal.
It's a good save by Ederson as well, isn't it? It's a lovely ball in. Should be a goal, to be honest. Ederson palms it away, and the reaction wasn't good enough from Azpilicueta, but it's a decent header on target.
Here's De Bruyne. That was better, but another good header from Tony Rudiger.
Yeah, Alonso was there as well. Either of them could have done something with it, but this is Pulisic now getting a breakaway chance.
Oh, and away from Mendy. Christian Pulisic one-on-one with Ederson. Strokes it into the bottom corner. Chelsea ahead 10 minutes before half-time. Composure from Pulisic, who is 2-in-2 since the restart. Chelsea tightening their grip on 4th place. And Manchester City getting further and further away from the title. It came from their free kick. Chelsea reacted well to it. Mendy did not. Pulisic got it in his own half of the field and was able to keep his cool and beat Ederson.
That's absolutely magnificent, isn't it? Great run by Pulisic, and what a calm finish at the end of it.
De Bruyne. After Mahrez, clipped by Kanté.
Yeah, I think that's a foul. I think that's the right decision from the referee.
Werner is lining up the free kick, and this is well within his range. Oh, wasn't it just? It's brilliant from Kevin De Bruyne. Manchester City back on terms. Kepa couldn't get near it. A special free kick from one of the Premier League's best players, who scores against his old club again.
Well, that's a great finish, isn't it? Take nothing away from Kevin De Bruyne. It was a perfect position for him, and he didn't let his side down.
Ruud got his head to that. Rudiger challenging too.
Some work to do defensively now. 3-on-2.
Played it first time in for Raheem Sterling. Kepa came and didn't get there, and Sterling hit the post.
I actually cannot believe what I've just seen. Why he didn't pass to Mahrez here, Raheem Sterling, I don't know. What a chance for City. That's a good ball. Look at the square pass. Simple. Always a good chance for
Pulisic again, away from Fernandinho, around Ederson, surely. Oh, it's just cleared off the line. Has Abraham put it in? Kyle Walker has come to the rescue when it seems certain as though Pulisic would be celebrating for the second time tonight.
It's great defending, isn't it, as well? I have to agree to that.
Now Willian managing to shrug off De Bruyne. Abraham and Pulisic in the middle. Got the second go at the cross, there's Abraham, and Pulisic is it over this time. Surely someone can put it in.
Is there a handball in there as well? I think that's what Sammy's looking for. I mean, I think they've kept it out, Man City. To be honest, we should have scored. I mean, I think Willian was pulled back initially, kept running. I think the referee's going to get a look at VAR. Let's have another look. A poor first ball, that's a good ball. Sammy doesn't really get decent contact. What happens here?
Pick off the
it's handball, yeah.
Fernandinho, yeah.
Certainly handball. VAR must pick up on that.
Craig Pawson is the man in charge at Stockley Park.
Well, he gets it away the first time. It's this one here. There's the handball,
that's clear as day, isn't it?
It's clear as anything. Yeah, that's a penalty, a sending off. Let's hope another goal for us.
And the inevitable penalty followed by a red card. Second time Fernandinho's been sent off against Chelsea. And the Blues have the perfect opportunity to restore their lead.
Well, I think that was the inevitable, wasn't it? We thought that was coming. I think it was pretty obvious from the first couple of shots that we saw.
Jorginho not on the pitch, so it's Willian versus Ederson. And Willian scores, and Chelsea have got the lead back. Perfect penalty, high up into the roof of the net to beat his international teammate and ensure that the punishment is double for City. Fernandinho sent off, Willian scores the subsequent spot kick. It's Chelsea 2, Manchester City 1.
Head down, strikes through the football. Great finish, sends Ederson the wrong way. If he'd have gone the right way, I don't think he'd have saved that.
Here he is, Gilmour. Azpilicueta, as though he was being fouled there. Gilmour's played a peach of a pass. How about that for a ball to Pedro? Is he going to go alone here? Pedro! Almost settled it.
Well, it's a good save from Ederson, isn't it? What a ball by Billy Gilmour. Good save by Ederson. A massive amount of pace. He's just trying to feel it into that far post area.
What a big result for Frank Lampard and Chelsea. They've beaten Manchester City to tighten their grip on fourth place. It also means that Liverpool are the Premier League champions for 2019-20. Congratulations to Liverpool, but the future looks bright if you are blue. Final score at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea 2, Manchester City 1. Hazard. Kanté! An unlikely goal scorer, a most welcome goal. Chelsea lead against the champions. It's N'Golo Kanté.
Yeah, Alonso was there as well. Either of them could have done something with it, but this is Pulisic now getting a breakaway chance.
Oh, and away from Mendy, Christian Pulisic one-on-one with Ederson, strokes it into the bottom corner. Chelsea ahead 10 minutes before half-time. Composure from Pulisic.
Ivanovic now. Chelsea have 4 up, and Hazard is onside. Can he get the ball right? Oh, look at the space for Ramirez. Company against the blockhead! Yeah! Chelsea lead, and it's Ivanovic! All the attacking talent on this field, and the big right back has thumped the Blues into a 1-0 lead. Absolutely stunning. Schürrle's touch was a good one. Now Hazard trying to find some space. There's plenty over on that other side, and he knew it as well, and he got the ball off. Brilliant. And here's Ivanovic on the gallop. Little ball for Diego Costa. Schürrle making the run. Costa sees Hazard. This is promising for Chelsea. Hazard puts it in the mix! Andre Schürrle! Absolutely classic and typical Chelsea counter-attacking football. Superb stuff. Gundogan's just going for it himself. Moses couldn't make the challenge. The pullback, pinball, Alonso, Fabregas and clear. And now again, Costa's rolled onto Mendy, who's having a nightmare, and Willian's onside! Chelsea are breaking City hearts here. You know Willian has the pace. He had to finish too.
Done a bit of digging. Frank Lampard has just lost one game in his entire career played on the 3rd of January. That was in 2015 in a 2-1 defeat against Liverpool whilst playing for today's opponents. The result is the only focus for today. Chelsea host Manchester City, and this is the team that Frank Lampard has selected. In goal, Eduard Mendy, a back four, captain Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva, and Ben Chilwell. N'Golo Kanté, Mateo Kovacic, and Mason Mount. Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic, and Timo Werner, the front three. We're going to start with our one to watch for today, which is the captain, which is the man that is going to play his 400th game for Chelsea today, Cesar Azpilicueta. We've got Ben Andrews joining us from Stamford Bridge as well. Ben, I want to start because obviously you'll have seen a lot of Azpi, not only around the training ground, but in many of the 400, if not all of the 400 games he's played for Chelsea. What a terrific servant, what a terrific player, what a terrific captain.
Absolutely. I mean, just all of those things and then some, and a lovely bloke as well. It's really annoying. One of those people who's got everything. Yeah, right back at the beginning, no one will probably remember this. It was an away game at Schalke and he got picked to play left back ahead of Ashley Cole, and everyone went, what? And then he stayed in for the rest of that season there, just about, and well, most of it, and Ash couldn't get back in. Just fitness is the most incredible thing about all of it. I mean, year in, year out, he plays the most minutes, starts the most games, until now. Right now, this is the only time since he's got himself in the side all that time ago that he's got a fight on, and a fight right now. You'd have to say he's losing, although that's not a great word for him because he doesn't really lose at anything he does. But obviously, still a huge influence internally as one of the senior players, and just what you want if you're a coach in Franklin. That every time he has brought him in, he hasn't looked rusty at all. I think I might have said to you before, I actually think a lot when he's played this season, he's actually playing better than he did play last year. So yeah, 400. There aren't that many. He might even catch Stevie Clark and Kerry Dixon, depending on how long he stays. He's going to be getting right up there into the very, very top echelons of all-time Chelsea appearances. Scott Carson has just cleared the ball. You can't play that. Bad luck. And Christ knows he needs the practice because he hasn't played for about 15 years. But anyway, yes, and City keepers warming up behind me. Zach Steffen and Scott Carson, unknown quantities both.
We'll come on to the City team in a while, actually. So keep an eye on that for us, Ben. You might be able to give us some juicy gossip before the game. But Claire, Ben mentioned it there about Aspi playing left back, he's playing right back today. Obviously, he's played centre back in a 3 under Antonio Conte as well. That versatility. I know that we've spoken before about the difference between playing left back and left wing back is huge. But how different is it to be asked to play on the left, on the right, in the middle, wherever he does it? He's an 8, 9 out of 10.
Yeah, and you know what, credit to him, student of the game, isn't he? I think it's about reinventing yourself and being that versatile. You need to pay attention to them small, finite details, don't you? What an incredible landmark to reach. I think I'm right in saying he's the second overseas player to do so after Peter Cech. So, and as Ben said, a really lovely guy. And just an all-round great person. I think the versatility of him is just a credit to himself and the credit to how much he loves the club. And whenever he gets the opportunity to step on the pitch, I know this season he hasn't had as many opportunities, but he always lifts his game alongside the standard, and it even pushes the players on. So I wouldn't be surprised to actually see a bit of a lift in standard after the last few games. I know that he takes a lot of pride in his performances, so hopefully he can inject a little bit more of the higher standards that we've been expecting from the team.
Jay, exactly what Claire's saying there about his influence. Ben mentioned it as well about his influence on and off the pitch, but we've noticed that earlier in the season he come on at half-time against West Brom, I think it was, and straight away it was that impact and that tempo that he brings and that leadership quality. He's a man that isn't sort of 6'4", but in terms of personality and in terms of the amount he brings, he's such a huge figure on the pitch for Chelsea.
Absolutely, and Ben alluded to it in the dressing room as well. He is a winner at heart, hates to lose. His driving force, capable, incredibly reliable, versatility. He can play anywhere across that back 3, 4, 5, whatever you want to really say. And he has been a credit to himself and the football club. £8 million. That's all it cost at the time. £8 million. And you think about the years of service that he has given us. He's been a fabulous player. And even when Reece James came in at the beginning of the season, I did say that he is not going to give that shirt up without a fight. That Reece has done incredibly well, but when he comes in, he's going to want to keep that shirt. He's going to make the job, Frank, hard to make the choice to give that shirt back to Reece, and that's the way it should be. He's been brilliant. Doesn't grumble, doesn't complain when he's not in the side, but ever reliable. I'm not the least bit concerned. One little bit about him today, not little bit. That doesn't bother me. The fact that he's come in, can't get in the side now. I know exactly the sort of performance we're going to get and the sort of performance we're going to see. But you know what? Against City today, he might, and my team might just have edged it above Reece anyway because of what we're going to be up against today.
Pat, one last little mention as well, because I noticed this on him. He's the 5th highest assist maker for Chelsea in the Premier League, behind Fabregas, Hazard, Drogba, and Lampard. I mean, he's got everything in his game, you know, and that for me, I think that really emphasises not only how impeccable he is as a defender, he's a leader, but also the way that he influences the game in the sort of latter third of the pitch, which perhaps doesn't quite get the credit he deserves. You know, I think back to the amount of goals that Alvaro Morata scored, and it used to be always Aspi assist all the time. Exactly, Ben. It was a header, and it was always an Aspi assist. But that quality from wide areas, he's been so consistent. He probably doesn't get the respect or credit he deserves. He certainly does at Chelsea, but outside of it, Pat, he's up there with the very best fullbacks we've seen in the league, isn't he?
Yeah, he doesn't get that level of credit. And remember, last season he was scoring goals as well for us. So you add all that onto it. Funny enough, Ben, you mentioned the fact that a number of players had right up there, you know, with a number of games they played for Chelsea. And one of them you mentioned was Steve Clark. And I see so many similarities. You know, he played right back, centre back, left back. You put him in centre midfield as a defensive centre midfielder, he could be absolutely perfectly fine there as well. So Aspi's got all those things. But the thing that you want today, if I'm a winger and I've got a full back behind me, it's 100 times better if he makes intelligent runs and intelligent moves and drags players away and goes round and knows when to go into those areas and make space for you. And then if 2 players come to you, you can slip him in. Goes right back to that point you're making. If you slip him in wide, he'll put in a good cross and he'll give assists to other players as well. I really hope he gets up and that understanding builds up with Ziyech today. They are both intelligent players. I absolutely expect it to go well today with the both of them, and it's another reason why we can all be excited. He's a top player in any position. I think he'll love it today.
Like Steve Clark as well, I certainly wouldn't rule out seeing Cesar Azpilicueta in a dugout when he finishes, because he seems very much like that kind of person, doesn't he? Just a proper club legend. You mentioned there, Pat, excuse me, Ben, I want to come to you about this, because Pat mentioned about how nice it must feel as a winger to have Cesar Azpilicueta behind you. Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic start today an attacking trio or two of the trio that Frank looks like he's wanted to start for a while. This is a big day for both of them, and Frank, isn't it?
Yep, and Timo through the middle, because well documented. It's 10 without a goal or whatever it is for Timo. I think it's 11 actually now. But at Burnley was the first and only time he's been able to pick both Ziyech and Pulisic in the same lineup, and Christian did his hammy in the warm-up. So I know for a fact, right from the very beginning of the non-existent pre-season, that with everyone fit, that was kind of, if he had an A-team, or at least a plan to begin with for an A-team, that was what he was wanting to build towards. And he hasn't been able to do it till today, January the 3rd, 4 months into the season, the first time they're going to start a game together. So that is fascinating, as it is having Timo through the middle, which I don't believe he's done since Southampton. So he's only started 4 times as a centre forward, and they're all right at the beginning of the season, Timo Werner. We know he can play from wider, but once Tammy got those assists for Kai Havertz here against Barnsley, there's always been a Tammy or an Olivier Giroud as the centre forward, and Timo has always been coming from the left. And that combo Pat's talking about there, Ziyech generally right side, but will be wanting to come in on his left. Aspie, therefore, is the overlapping option. It should work nicely, shouldn't it? And those wicked balls curve from Ziyech either to Chilwell or to Pulisic tucking around. It's lots to be excited about.
That's exactly what we want, mate. Ben, thank you so much for joining us, mate. I'll let you go and get set for commentary. Thank you very much. A man who could potentially make the difference from the bench today. A lot of people, us included, perhaps thought that he might get the nod to start. Callum Hudson-Odoi has been superb over the last couple of games, and Pat has been taking a closer look at what he's brought to the side.
Cheers, folks.
It's been a tough little run for a number of players. However, over the last few weeks, Callum Hudson-Odoi's probably come out of it better than just about anyone else. Against Arsenal, as soon as he came on, he was putting dangerous balls into the box. And it doesn't matter whether it's right or left, who it's against. Now this time it's against Kieran Tierney, probably one of the best fullbacks, if not the best in the league at the moment. but there he was getting past him. And time and again, if you're going to be blocking down the line, make sure you go inside and find another one of your teammates. He's doing that time and again. But of course, the other side of it, Tierney, into that area there, got back, but made sure he stayed alert and was able to clear it. And that's a big thing about it. It's not just about the positives, it's the negative side of the game, the defending side of the game. And that's lightning quick there. Make sure he closes down and gets into a good position. This time, using loads and loads of pace. If you're not going to get by the player, make sure you hold it. Make sure you give it to a teammate in a good area. And that's exactly what he does in that situation. Time and again, he gets to the kind of byline sort of areas. When he gets there, he is unbelievably dangerous. That is what we need more than anything else at Chelsea at the moment. Yeah, one touch, move it on when you possibly can. But getting into dangerous areas where you can either cross or indeed shoot yourself. He's actually had a fantastic little period of the season just now. We might be depending on him.
He's been superb over the last couple of games, Callum Hudson-Odoi. Really made a huge impact. And Zach, I know we're a little bit biased as fans when one of our own comes through the academy. You've seen him in pictures of the Samuel Eto'o pictures, my favourite one, when he was ball boy and Eto'o scores the hat-trick and celebrates with him. You see all these pictures and it makes you feel really warm inside when he plays so well. But he has been phenomenal the last couple of weeks. And he's probably a little bit unfortunate not to be starting today, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, because he has been superb. And I think people forget he's only just turned 20. He was 19. I think he turned 20 in November. And that's probably the age where you start to see them come into the squad. So the fact he's been in this squad and amongst the squad now for nearly 3 seasons is testament to the level that he is. And look, when Bayern Munich are coming around and trying to acquire you, you know you've got a talent on your hands. He is still extremely young, and it's about Frank now trying to give him the minutes when's right. And obviously it's hard to do when you've got players like Ziyech and Pulisic and all these guys who are fantastic players and play on the wing. But I have no doubt that Callum Hudson-Odoi will be a very successful footballer at Chelsea Football Club. And it's going to be a fantastic thing to see, especially because he's our own.
Absolutely right, mate. Absolutely, it does feel very, very cool when they come through the academy and you see. Just love it. Brings us on to our hot topic 3 for today, then, which is what business do we need to do in January? Now, this is, I suppose, a little bit of a loose question because it could, if you want to sit on the fence a little bit or not go as far, you could perhaps look at players that are coming back from injury as an addition to the squad. I'm going to allow that. And Claire, I'll start with you. So what do you think?
You know what? Before that, I think obviously the likes of Alonso, he's be looking for a move, won't he? I think he's going to be struggling to get any game time at all. For me, it as you said, yeah, Ziyech coming back, the players that are not firing, getting these Germans firing. They're going to almost feel like new signings, aren't they? Because they haven't been a bit absent. But for me, I think players leaving will be kind of the biggest movement, I reckon, rather than players coming in. Other than that, I don't know what everyone else thinks, but for me, it's very much focused on the players that we currently have and getting them firing on all cylinders.
Completely right. And Jay, I suppose that is something, isn't it? There will be players, and I suppose a loan move at this point. There's a lot of football still to be played before the end of the season, but players that will perhaps be a little bit frustrated not getting the game time they want, or perhaps even players that are on the fringes coming back from injury that need minutes to get through. It's all a process, isn't it? So maybe we might see a little bit of movement in that direction.
Yeah, I would have thought there'd be more players going out than actually coming in. The only one caveat to that is Giroud. If he decides that he really does need to be playing more minutes every single week, guaranteed. We're now seeing Timo Werner start up top. That might set the maybe the alarm bells ringing, thinking, what chance have I got of starting 10, 15 games between now and the end of the season, which might be what he needs to get himself in that French squad. If he does decide to move on, or the club decide that actually we can't keep him, he's under contract, of course it's down to the club whether they move him on or not, that might be the only area we might have to reinvest in.
Pat, we're seeing the likes of Conor Gallagher, who's obviously out on loan at West Brom, Mark Gurhey in the Championship at Swansea, players that are going out, getting minutes, younger players perhaps that are keen on improving their development. Is there anyone you see perhaps in that kind of mould, that a loan move or a sort of a break where they're going to be a key figure rather than sort of sitting on the peripheries will really help them?
Really tough to get loan players in that are going to be good enough to get into our team. And if you're going to get a guy and you want him actually in the team, in a perfect world, there would be 2 that I'd have been considering, right? So one of them is, Ziyech isn't here, we have limitations of breaking lines. And in the perfect world, I'd have got David Silva. At the end of his career, just grabbed him over and give him a season, or half a season with us. But in reality, the problem we will have going forward is centre-back. Thiago Silva's not going to last forever. He can't play every game, and Frank's never really settled on anyone else to play there when he's not playing. A while back, I've named a few players that I thought I'd like to have went for. I wanted us to go for Van Dijk when he was at Celtic. I wanted us to go for Tierney when he was at Celtic, and I wanted us to go for McGinn when he was at Hibernian. Now you can see a little link here. They're all playing in Scotland. There's possibly one more, and there's a guy called Ayer who's centre back for Celtic at the moment. He would make a job for us. So if it was anyone, maybe that going forward would be one I'd be considering.
I knew you were going to say that because he played very well in the Old Firm game yesterday, didn't he? Very consistent, very, very good. Let's have a little look at Manchester City then, because obviously they are a threat. Zach, we know how good they are. There's one man that I suppose we're all looking at because he's very well known around these parts, very familiar to Stamford Bridge. Obviously, Kevin De Bruyne. I was going to list off some of his stats, but there's no point. Everyone knows how good he is. The stats only reinforce that. He is a phenomenal footballer, and he is one of those players that I suppose you have to do our very best to keep quiet today.
He's the one that got away. He really is. I remember seeing him in pre-season when we were in America. And I think it was around the time, I think Hazard was playing, Lukaku, I think, was up front. And I remember him scoring like a half volley from about 25 yards out. And I'm thinking this guy is talented. The half volley also led to him getting injured as well. And then he was out for a little bit. And we all know what happened from then on. Kevin De Bruyne has the ability to change a game like that. He could be having a 6 out of 10 performance, but one of the most perfect balls you'll ever see in your life lays at the feet of a City player, and it's a tap in or it's a 30-40 yard shot, which he's done before against us several times from outside the box, and it's perfectly placed in the top corner. He is lethal no matter where he is and no matter what part of the game. He is very much going to have to be kept quiet, and I'm sure that's a job Kanté will be looking to do. Even Kova and Mason, both maybe having to sacrifice a little bit of going forward to make sure he is kept quiet. One guy that I'm happy isn't playing is Sergio Aguero. He normally has a little bit of fun when he plays against us, but he's on the bench. So yeah, they're a team that, although they have quite a few players missing, still we cannot underestimate them. They are still a very strong squad, and Kevin De Bruyne is a guy who, we know too much about to make a mistake of letting him go.
Jace, like Zach was saying, they've got so many good players. They've got so many areas where they can hurt you. Today's going to be a real test for everyone. But at the same time, the areas that perhaps they're struggling or lacking or having to change in, i.e. in goal and in the back line, is perhaps somewhere that Chelsea can look to exploit.
Definitely, without question. Look, I've got no sympathy with them. I wish everyone that's ill a speedy recovery from COVID. It's a dreadful disease that we all know how the impact it's had on everyone's life globally. But they have a squad that should be deep enough to deal with this. And if it happened the other way round and we had injuries and illness, I wouldn't expect any sympathy the other way, because you look at their team. You don't really look at their team and go, oh, there's a weakness.
Yeah.
It's only the goalkeeper, really, when we look at it, you think, maybe if there are crosses, maybe if there are shots from distance, maybe if there are one or two moments in the game that he starts to perhaps flap at a few things, can we put him under a bit more pressure? Throughout the rest of the side, trust me, and the bench, not all of it, and some of the bench, this is a very, very talented side. Make no mistake about it, this is a good side. So I'll go into this without my eyes wide open. This is going to be a very, very tough game.
Absolutely, mate. Jace, you are free to go get set up for commentary, mate.
Good luck,
Thank you
guys.
for that nice one very much. If you haven't checked out the best of series on the Fifth Stand, the complete series is on there now. It's really well worth a watch, to be fair. This is our Scottish superstar, Billy Gilmour, looking back at his 2020.
Closed down, needs a shot. Billy Gilmour provides it brilliantly.
The biggest thing I've learned this year was to cook, actually. It's to make katsu curry, which is my favourite homemade meal. Favourite performance this year will be against Liverpool.
Such an exciting talent, another one coming from our youth system.
Billy Gilmour, how about that? And he's found Giroud, who went for it at the near post. We're witnessing the birth of a new superstar in Billy Gilmour.
I enjoyed that the most. The biggest challenge this year was my injury. That was a difficult period for me, but I got through it and I'm getting stronger. The funnest moment this year in training will be Tammy Abraham getting nutmegged every time he's in the rondo. It's too funny. Favourite movie is Step Brothers. My favourite song, actually, Tootsie Slide by Drake. Next year, us as a team are looking to achieve to win trophies. We know we've all got the winning mentality here at Chelsea, and hopefully we can cheer you guys up by winning trophies. Next year I would like to learn, well, I will want to improve my cooking skills at home. Happy New Year guys, and stay safe.
Pat, I would come to you first, but I want to save you because we know that you are the head of the Billy Gilmour fan club, rightly so. He's a phenomenal player, but he's one of those players as well, Claire, that we have to be patient with because he did have a difficult injury not that long ago. He's only 19, and I suppose that's something we need to remind ourselves. He's phenomenal, and he doesn't play like a 19-year-old, but we need to give him that time to recover from the injury properly and to get back to his best.
Yeah, you know what? He's made 4 appearances, hasn't he, under Frank Lampard? I think, obviously, as you mentioned, he had an injury hit season. But for me, it's trying to find a way for him to get to play more regularly, whether that is going out on loan. What that looks like, I don't know. Pat is the expert on him, but I mean, it's very exciting to be a Scottish national at the moment, isn't it, with the calibre of players that are coming through.
Absolutely right. They've got a very good team, and Zach, I suppose that's the biggest compliment you can play Billy. When Restart started, he was one of the first names on the team sheet before he got injured. He was playing in that deeper role, and he looked so accomplished. And just when he's playing well, he makes things look so easy.
He's been compared to the likes of Xavi and Iniesta, and although he's a bit different to them because he can play further forward as well, you do see similarities. The game against Liverpool in the FA Cup, the game against Everton, just before we went into lockdown, he was superb and looked like a real talent on the ball. He can kind of do it. He can kind of do it all. He can pass. He can dribble. He can do he can tackle if you need him to play more defensively. He's fantastic and a guy who I think we paid something like £500,000 to get him into our academy is going to look so like an absolute maybe bargain of the next century or so after he develops.
It's a great show. It really is. And Pat, I suppose the other thing to say is that everyone's looking at Billy Gilmour as being the next first name on the team sheet, if that makes sense. The next where we look at Reece James now and Mason Mount as being players that have come up through the academy, that have graduated and are now very much first team players. Billy Gilmour, once he's got fit, once he's recovered from this injury, once he's allowed that time to get back to his very best, there's no doubt that he's going to be such an important figure for Chelsea over, like Zach said, the next decade.
Sometimes you just have to look around at the other players and you think, right, you need to get by Kanté, you need to get by Kovacic, you need to get by Mason Mount. And then it doesn't stop there. Kai Havertz is going to be in that kind of midfield attacking area as well. There's a lot of top players to get by, but he will get there. He is good enough to get there. I mean, he's so good, he's almost in the Scottish national team now. Okay, so he should actually be starting. And some of us would like him starting right now. But, the technical ability that he's got. You're talking about certain players there, like De Bruyne, with the technical abilities he's got. There's Bruno Fernandes. I mean, the technical abilities are incredible. You don't see many weaknesses. And I look at Billy and I don't see many weaknesses in his technical ability for the specific position that he's playing just now. So, hopefully, it will happen. And I think Frank's doing the sensible thing, allowing him the time and bringing him in for the right ones. Oddly enough, I'm kind of happy to see him in the bench in this one. I think there's other ones he can come in and have a commanding effect in games going forward. And by the end of the season, and I think it will be before the end of the season, he will be a starter.
I think it's spot on because it seems like the man in the opposition dugout tonight is certainly he's a Billy Gilmour fan, because Billy is very much a Pep Guardiola player, isn't he? Very much so. Let's have a look at the team that Frank Lampard has selected for tonight. Then Edouard Mendy in goal for Chelsea. A back four of Cesar Azpilicueta, Kurt Zouma, Thiago Silva and Ben Chilwell. N'Golo Kanté, Mateo Kovacic, Mason Mount, Hakim Ziyech, Christian Pulisic and Timo Werner. On the bench, Kepa Arrizabalaga, Rudiger, Jorginho, Abraham, Giroud, Hudson-Odoi, Gilmour, Havertz and Emerson. Claire, it's going to be a game where fine balance, fine margins could be the difference between the two sides. I suppose you do look at games like this for a little bit of brilliance, a little bit of quality. We've spoken about Manchester City's, we've spoken about ours as well, but it's quite a lot of pressure to put on Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic and Timo Werner, 3 players that, between them haven't played a huge amount of football since they've joined, but especially from Hakim Ziyech's perspective, I suppose there is a little bit of patience that's needed today.
You know what? These players, they must thrive under the expectation and the pressure. You know, as a footballer, you need to have that mentality. Otherwise, you will just get pushed aside. I think, Ziyech, we will be expecting a little bit, maybe too much from him because he's coming back. Everyone's excited and pumped about him coming back in and what he can inject. I think it might take him a while to get going, but I still think the energy that he brings and what he brings at different to what we've been missing is going to be enough to kind of galvanise the players around him. I've loved the way that Chilwell's been playing as well on that left-hand side. I think Dave coming in, giving a little bit more experience, maybe a little bit more level head. I think I'm excited to see what the kind of dynamics of this team is going to be, because as we said, we haven't seen that front three before. We haven't seen this kind of consistency in the way they're going to play. So yeah, let's see. Level-headed, that's what I want to see from this game. I'm being boring there. Zach's going to bring the energy.
No, not at all. Not at all. I did see something really cool though. Christian Pulisic has gone for the clean shaven look. Did you see this? Because his grandma said that she didn't like it. She preferred the clean shaven look. I love that. I absolutely love that about him. And Pat, I mean, there's obviously nothing in that, but we are very superstitious as football fans. So if he plays really well today, please give him a lifetime supply of razors, because it's going to be one of those things, isn't it? Soon that might become the new trend. That might become the new thing now. That's our lucky thing when Christian Pulisic shaves.
Oh, nothing against facial hair with you two sitting watching me here just now, but
hope you're not talking about me there, Pat.
You've got great eyebrows. The thing about Ziyech, and Claire made a really good point there about the pressure. You're asking about the pressure on certain types of players. Creative players live on it and love it and prefer it. You would much rather the manager say to you before the game, I want you to be the one that does it. I want you to be the one that gets the ball and does it for us. Get the ball to him all the time. And I think that's the way we feel about Pulisic and Ziyech just now, because give them enough of them the ball in the final third and they will create something, but that's what you want as that sort of player. So I mentioned those two, and as you see, you're asking about the entire forward line. We've talked a wee bit about why Werner up there, and he's not been in the greatest of form, but Tammy has and Giroud has, and a number of eyebrows will be raised. The part of the reason is it's purely technical. Man City, more than any other team, will attack us and will come on to us, and there'll be space behind to run in there.
Sorry to dive in, Pat. The players have come out a little bit early because obviously we have a minute's silence before kick-off for Tommy Docherty. So that is all from us for now. Chelsea, Manchester City is moments away. We'll join our commentary team of Ben Andrews and Jason Cundy.